Today's video is all about intermittent fasting for fat loss. A huge needle mover in menopausal fat loss is intermittent fasting. So let's take a deep dive, a quick deep dive, because I think it's something that could be relatively simple. There's a couple different ways that you want to maximize fasting and appreciate how easy it really can be. So let's get started. I'm Connie. This is Over 50 Fat Blast, and I'm so glad you're here. I want to share tips and tricks with you to really get into the momentum of keeping your body as healthy as possible. Aging is difficult. It's hard on our bodies and our minds. I mean, you've heard it time and time again. But I want to simplify it so that you can feel successful and really, really good. Feeling good in your body is so important. The first thing I want to say is that some clients that I work with are questioning the fact that fasting is calorie restriction. And yes and no. Obviously, we know that calorie restriction is going to really help with anti-aging. Lots of studies tell us that when we reduce the amount of food that we're eating, our body then can be more efficient. And when there's extra carbohydrates, extra glucose, extra everything on board, then we kind of get bogged down. So it's a real, I guess, important factor to be as efficient so that your body can really use the food as fuel instead of storing it, because that's just going to kick up a lot of inflammation, a lot of dis-ease, and we don't need any of that, especially as we're aging. The important fact getting started with intermittent fasting is start slow. I mean, fasting is like a muscle. You need to build it up. So if you haven't been in a fasted state for 12 hours for a while, then you want to make sure that you're eating pretty darn clean the day before. I always suggest that you have at least 12 hours with no food on board. So what does that mean? That means you finish your dinner at 7 p.m. and you don't eat anything that evening, and then you stay fasted all night long. Wake up, drink your water at 7 a.m. and if you need to, you can eat then. As you start becoming more comfortable in that fasted state, then I want you to start stretching it out. Maybe you're going to do a 13-hour fast. As you move and become more metabolically flexible, you'll be able to eat, you'll be able to stretch out that fasted window a little longer and a little longer and a little longer. So why would you want to do that? Obviously, when you have no food on board, your body's going to tap in and use the excess glucose that's in your muscles from when you have been eating. And eating is important, but fasting is as important. So you need to just appreciate that the body needs to shift from burning stored fuel, which is your body fat, and the glucose and the food that you are eating. And when you're metabolically flexible, your body will easily shift back and forth, and you won't be hungry often. As you become more metabolically flexible, the fasting will become easier and easier. I have people complain that they binge after they've been fasting. And if you don't have a good relationship with food, then that could be a real issue for you. And we should talk a little bit about that. The fact that you don't have a good relationship with food could be habits. If you just need to kind of determine what your habits are, that's something maybe you want to take a few notes. Maybe you want to think about your impulse issues. If you don't really have a mindfulness practice when it comes to how you eat, you might want to really kind of give yourself a little bit of information so that you know what's going on before you put that food in your mouth, especially if you're snacking. I find that making up your mind and deciding to do a longer intermittent fast gives you a lot of information about how you respond to a hunger pain. As you are going without food, it's not starvation. It's logistically giving yourself a reset. And if you have the, lack in habit control, it might really establish a different relationship with food for you. Food is readily available everywhere. You go in and get a facial, and as you're paying, they've got a candy dish on the counter. And so you'll grab a couple of little pieces of candy thinking, that's nothing. But every time you do something like that, your insulin response kicks up, your blood sugar kind of goes wonky, and you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot as far as being metabolically flexible and allowing your body to tap into your own fats reserves to feel like you want to feel. First of all, maybe you're going to feel like you're a failure because you ate the candy on the way to the car after your, luxurious facial, thinking, oh, I deserve this. Well, you don't deserve it. It's junk food. It's sabotage. That doesn't make any sense. So I want to just say that just getting a proper mindset so that you're allowing yourself to be in control and not letting the food control you. Huge, huge in dealing with excess body fat. So let's get back to the fasting. When you have a longer fasting window, say you're going to fast for 16 hours, your body's doing something magically called autophagy. It's cellular cleanup. And if you can get to that 17, 18 hour, even 16 hours in a fasted state, you know that the intelligence of your body is cleaning up old, decrepit, senescent cells that are very, very aging. And you're also tapping into fat burning stores. I mean, your body's starting to be able to use your stored fat instead of just letting it sit there. So you're doing cellular cleanup, your body's starting to reset, you're having some better habit control, and then you go into eating, because eating is as important as fasting. And when you have structured your meal with a good 30 to 40 grams of protein, and deciding how many carbohydrate grams you want in that feeding window, then you're going to be more successful and feel more satiated and have a better control mechanism and be able to then feel better throughout the rest of the day and feel successful as time goes on. So say that have worked your way up, you've got, plenty of water on board. In the fasted window, you can do black coffee, black tea. You can even do maybe some MCT, fat, butter. If you need a quote unquote fasted snack while you're kind of moving and stretching out that fasting window. I know it doesn't make any sense. If you're going to fast, you need to fast, but sometimes we need a little help. So by having a teaspoon of fat, and a lot of people use MCT oil, or a lot of people use a teaspoon to a tablespoon of butter, it'll just help you feel more satiated. You can also use electrolytes or sea salt or liquid minerals. They don't taste good, but they sure do offer your body a little bit of kick and allow some more energy in. So as you start to be more comfortable in that fasted state, and when you do eat, you're making sure that your meals have plenty of protein and carbohydrate, enough carbohydrate so that you feel satiated. And you might want to keep your meals super simple. By simplifying your meals, you are cleaning up your sugar for sure. Your satiety might be better because you're avoiding the sugar. I mean, it works different for everybody. So you do you, and you figure out what is sustainable and is feeling like success for you. So when you do open your feeding window, I want you to have a plan. That's important. Make sure your macros are dialed in and follow it. Be mindful, eat slowly, appreciate that you are going to be following a plan, stick to your guns, and don't overthink it. I always like for you to have maybe some type of snack ready at the end of that feeding window. If your feeding window is going to be an hour to an hour and a half, then you'll have your meal and you'll feel very satisfied and full after that meal. If you don't, then you know that you haven't structured your meal perfectly, and maybe you need more protein and fat. Maybe you need some more carbohydrates. Maybe you want to try a little starchier carb, just a few bites. It's amazing how if you kind of play around with the types of foods that are on your food list, that you can really, feel very, very comfortable and satiated and happy for hours and hours with nothing else. For example, if you have a burger patty and it has a piece of cheese and maybe a piece of bacon, and you have that on a bed of lettuce, some of us won't, those of us that are more active, won't be as satisfied as if we added in like maybe some hummus, 2 tablespoons of hummus. That's a little starchier. Or a few cubes of roasted potatoes. Maybe you like beets and you have a couple slices of roasted beets or pickled beets. These are suggestions that might just do the trick in helping you feel completely satiated after your meal. Sometimes I suggest if you have an air fryer, you can have a burger patty in sweet potato bun. So you've got a 1/4 inch roasted sweet potato slice, and you have 2 of those, and you put your burger inside and eat it just like a bun. I mean, maybe that's your perfect recipe for that very, very satiating meal. I think many of us don't realize how changing up the macronutrients can really be game changers in making you feel like you've had plenty and you're not going to want and have cravings later in the day. So as you kind of get an hour after that meal under your belt and you're going to close that feeding window, oftentimes I want you to check in. Well, every time I want you to check in and see how your body feels. If you're a little bit hungry or you're feeling a craving, I think it's time for you to address that. A lot of times I will do that protein pudding, and I use the Equip prime protein powder in Greek yogurt. and I don't do very much of it. Maybe a scoop or half a scoop, just a couple bites of something sweet that is going to kind of shut down my feeding window in a way that I know I'm going to be satiated. I've got all my nutrients on board. I'm not going to starve. I'm not restricting my calories to starvation mode, giving my body all the raw materials it needs to build and reset, and then I'm ready to fast again. And some of us are going to do great with 2 meals a day. Some of us are going to do great with 1 larger meal per day and maybe a snack. Some of us will do well with 2 meals and a snack. And then if you're more compromised or you just are getting started, you'll want to do 3 meals. No snacking in between. I think that is definitely something we can all agree on. Snacking is going to really dismantle your fat loss because it's going to kick up your insulin and just kind of shut down your body's ability to tap into your fat stores and use those up. And we don't want that. So I think that's kind of the instructions for today. Think about that. Try to get more comfortable with being in the fasted state. Sometimes you just got to be a little uncomfortable until you get comfortable. And don't overthink it. Don't starve to death. Don't overfast. There's that sweet spot. You want to really nourish your body and then allow that nourishment to be absorbed and assimilated. And that means you get to take action. You get to make up your mind. You get to be strong in that resolve. And you get to enjoy the benefits of a clean, well-fed, and well-nourished body that feels good. And as you start to kind of heal from all of the unwanted results that happened in the past, then you get stronger mentally and stronger physically. And you get to kind of start to reap the benefits of your healthy practice. The intermittent fasting is key to being as healthy and ageless in the menopausal body. It just is. There's no wiggle room. It's your recipe for success. And that's what we want. So let me know how that works for you. Put it down in the comments. I think together we can all help each other and encourage each other in the comment section. Subscribe, share this information if you think it's helpful, and let me know how you do. I want you to be successful. It feels good to succeed, and you know that. So until next time, bye-bye.